If you've ever been in a screaming match with your co-founder where you're yelling horrible, hurtful things to each other, or one or both of you have shut down and you haven't talked to each other basically at all for a week or more, maybe you even work in separate WeWork offices in different parts of the city just to avoid being in person with each other, then you know something's not right about that situation. But here's what a lot of founders get wrong about these moments. They feel like opposite problems. One person blows up, the other person shuts down. One person screams, the other person runs away, hot, cold. They feel like polar opposites. But the truth is that these two behaviors come from the same root source. But once you actually understand what is driving these behaviors, the problem starts to look a lot different. You stop taking things so personally and you start to see the bigger picture and the real reason why you two are behaving that way. But once you start to really understand the emotional root cause of these problems, you'll probably see your co-founder and yourself in a different light. You're gonna see the conflict in a new way because you're gonna stop taking it so personally and you're gonna realize that this is a pattern and patterns can be understood and addressed. That's what we're gonna break down in today's video. I'm a YC alum and an executive coach, and I've worked with dozens of startup founders, CEOs, and CTOs. And one of the most common issues that I work on is co-founder conflict. And when I talk to these people who are going through this kind of a situation, the first thing that comes to mind is that they're incompatible, that they're too different, that something's wrong about their chemistry. They wonder if they've picked the wrong person. But here's the thing, the whole reason why your partnership is valuable is because you are different. You see things from different perspectives, you catch what the other person misses. You each bring something unique to the table. But here's the thing. The same differences that make a partnership valuable are also the things that make it feel hard. A technical founder and a sales-driven founder are going to fundamentally see problems in a different light. One person is going to think that the product needs to get better. The other person thinks they need to hit the market harder. Those differences are a feature, not a bug. Up until the pressure really gets you, then it feels like a zero-day exploit. And look, startups are pressure cookers by design. You're underfunded. You're racing the clock. Every decision feels monumental. You feel like you have to be perfect. You have to get everything right in order to even have a chance to succeed. Even if you swapped your co-founder, the wrong person, for someone who was quote unquote right, you're still gonna run into the same challenges. You're not growing fast enough. You're not building the right features. You're not bringing on the right people. You need more money. Different person, same dynamic. And what that ultimately means is that the problem isn't the person. The problem is the way that you are working through your disagreements, driven by a fundamental biological response that the two of you are not handling well. It's about what happens to the both of you when the pressure gets high enough. What is actually happening in these moments? Well, you're going through what is called a sympathetic nervous system activation. Your heart rate increases, your breathing gets shallow, cortisol and adrenaline are flooding through your bloodstream. Your body is preparing to face some kind of threat. And when that happens, you basically have two options: fight or flight. Some people go into fight mode. They get big, they get loud, they start shouting, they stand up. They are on the attack because their body tells them that it is essential for them to win this encounter, for them to survive. They have to get their way in order to survive. Other people go into flight. They shut down, they stop talking, they run away. They are escaping the threat. They are looking to survive by avoiding the conflict because they're gonna hurt their partner in some way. And in any case, it is necessary for survival. Their partner is gonna hurt them or that they're gonna hurt their partner. Either case, in their mind, is an unacceptable outcome. So their brain and their body is telling them that running away is the only way to stay safe. John and Julie Gottman, two researchers and clinical practicing psychologists who have done some of the most important scientific research on relationships, calls this emotional flooding. Your brain has been hijacked by your body, by this physiological response that overtakes your rational, logical, forward-thinking brain. Your executive functioning is shot. It is impossible to be reasonable. And if you think you can know when you're in it or when your partner's in it, you might actually be wrong. Gottman's research has shown that flooding can take place without many visible outward signals. It's really about what's going on the inside. If you're at 100 beats per minute or more, or even 80 or higher if you're a trained athlete, you're in emotional flooding. Your partner could be sitting there, arms crossed, not standing up, not acting in some sort of outwardly stressed fashion, but they could be flooded. Their rational brain could be offline, which means your ability to have a productive conversation about something important is basically gone to zero. That's why these fights seem so impossible. You're not really arguing about the right architecture for your application or whether the growth targets for Q2 are set correctly. You're just two nervous systems that think they are under attack, trying to protect themselves. Okay, so what are you going to do with this information? Well, step one, you have to learn to recognize the signs of flooding. It's important to start to get comfortable in your own body and realize what's going on when you reach this sort of sympathetic activation. Maybe you want to check your Apple Watch or your Oura Ring health data to see if your heart rate is spiking at different times during the day. When I work with clients, I buy them a $12 pulse oximeter clip that they put on their finger, and it just gives an instant readout to what their heart rate really is. And it's not just about you, it's also about your co-founder. Learn to see the signs in them about what's going on inside their bodies. Maybe they start interrupting more. Maybe they start staring off into space as if their brain is somewhere else. Maybe their responses get shorter, clipped, more cold. These are all potential signs that they are going into this flooding, this sympathetic nervous system activation, even if they look and sound kind of calm on the outside. And step two is to call it out before it escalates. This doesn't have to be something dramatic. You can just say, I feel like this conversation's getting a bit out of hand. The goal is to bring attention to the situation, to indicate that you're noticing something, and to kind of pull back from the underlying conflict before someone does or says something they can't take back. Step three is to suggest a break. It could be 5 minutes, it could be after lunch, it could be tomorrow morning. It's less about the length itself and more about the idea of creating some space, creating breathing room, allow yourselves to reset and get to a better baseline so that you can have a productive conversation. And that's how you should frame it. You should say, it's not about running away or giving up. It's about saying, look, I want us to make a high quality decision here, and I don't think we can do that right now. Because that is really the outcome you both want. You're not running away from the conflict. You are reconvening at a better time and place so you can make the best decision possible. Step four is to do some emotional regulation during the break. This is the really important part. Whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, you need to take an actual time out, take deep breaths, do box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, and then 4 seconds out, and then 4 seconds out the bottom. That's box breathing. It's a very standard technique. You can go look this up. Listen to music. Listen to something that makes you feel good, not something that's going to hype you up, something that's going to bring you down into a sort of safer, calmer, relaxed place. Go for a walk, move your body in some way, get on the Peloton for 15 minutes. You can look up something called progressive muscle relaxation, which is a visualization technique you can do in your chair. You don't have to go anywhere. Even if you're on a plane, you could still do it. And one thing to make sure you don't do is do not vent by calling somebody and chewing out your co-founder, calling a friend and then talking shit about your co-founder to them, or screaming obscenities into a pillow and punching a pillow and thinking about them while you're punching them in the face. That's not gonna help, okay? You need to focus on bringing down the temperature, bringing down the negativity, and at least getting to neutral. The goal here is to move through that sympathetic activation, to bring your heart rate down, to get the cortisol and the adrenaline out of your system, because just once it is released, it doesn't go away immediately. It takes a minute. The goal is to let your prefrontal cortex take back the reins, so that you can go back to the conversation and actually have a productive chat about your architecture or your Q2 goals. And finally, step 5, change the context or the setting when you return to your conversation. This is another technique to try to alter the dynamics so that you're less likely to fight with one another. If you were on Zoom before, try doing it in person. If you were already in person but sitting across from each other, consider going to a whiteboard or going for a walk around the block or the building or the hallways just to make it feel less confrontational. Different environments and different setups can make a huge difference. Creating a new environment or a new interaction setup can go a long way to changing your interpersonal dynamics. Look, when your co-founder blows up at you or shuts down, it feels personal. It feels like they're the problem, or maybe you're the problem. But now you understand the difference, that it really is a biological reaction. It's about protection, it's about safety, it's about survival. About two nervous systems that are dysregulated. And now we've talked about the playbook for how to deal with it, calling it out early, suggesting a break, actually regulating yourself, and then bringing back in a new context. In this video, we didn't have that much time to talk about regulating yourself, which is a whole other topic. For some people, it's just a reminder that you need to do this, and
and they know what to do and they can kind of get into it. But for a lot of people who are especially technical or just really high IQ founders, I find are often more focused on what's up here and less focused about what's down here. And unfortunately, they are very interconnected. So if you feel like you can take a break, but you don't feel better afterwards, or you just get right back into the conflict immediately, then you should watch this next video that I have about regulating in detail. It's based on my experience as a competitive gymnast, where you really have to regulate your body so that you can control yourself and not crash onto the bars and seriously injure yourself. There are a lot of techniques from this sport that I want to share with you. This work on regulating emotions comes a lot from my background as a competitive gymnast, which is not what you would expect as the basis for founder communication. But what I've learned about managing pressure on the competition floor is directly applicable to the conflict that you're facing right now. So if regulating feels like your weak spot, go watch that video and it's linked in the comments.